I live in a modest neighborhood of Lahore, where the bustle of life, the rattle of rickshaws, the scent of old alleyways, and the sight of pigeons perched on rooftops were all part of my everyday reality. My childhood passed with relative peace, but the moment I stepped into adulthood, life changed its colors entirely. I was only 22 in years, but the exhaustion and worry in my eyes mirrored that of an old man twice my age. It had been 2 years since my mother passed away. Her absence had not only hollowed the atmosphere of our home, but had also placed the burden of 6 siblings and a paralyzed father squarely on my shoulders. My father lay bedridden from a stroke, and it became my daily duty to tend to his every need. Managing household expenses, my siblings' education, my father's medication, and the weight of my own unfulfilled dreams all rested on the same weary chest. I wanted to study too. I dreamed of attending university, wearing a suit, and working in an office. But circumstances never allowed me to study beyond school. After my mother's death, things only grew harder. Being the eldest, I worked as a janitor at a hospital. I would leave early in the morning and spend the day cleaning the hospital's floors, rooms, and corridors. It was the kind of work people didn't look at with respect, but for me, it was a source of income, dignity, and a way to serve the people I loved. Though the job was difficult, it gave me some stability. Every month's salary, no matter how small, helped cover our household needs, barely, but somehow. Then one day, the hospital administration announced a budget cut. Several employees were being laid off. I was among them. The news swept the ground from beneath my feet. On my way home that day, I couldn't hold back my tears. I went to my mother's grave and wept for a long time, whispering to her, "Amma, I tried to hold everything together after you left, but life just isn't helping anymore." At home, the air felt different too. My younger siblings looked at me with questioning eyes. My father's gaze always carried a hidden sadness. I kept reassuring everyone that things would be fine, but the truth was I didn't know what was coming next. Living in a big city like Lahore had taught me one harsh truth. For an uneducated, unskilled young man, opportunities for honest work were painfully rare. One day during this difficult time, Was was sitting on the corner of our neighborhood's main street when an old car pulled up nearby. Out stepped Wasim, my childhood friend. His face radiated confidence and happiness. Wasim had gone to Saudi Arabia a few years ago. I had heard that he worked at a supermarket there, but over time we had lost touch. As soon as he saw me, he opened his arms and gave me a warm hug. Concern filled his eyes when he looked at my worn-out appearance. "How are you, Jamil? How's work going?" he asked with genuine affection. I smiled faintly and looked away. I didn't want him to see the helplessness in my eyes. That day, the sun had begun to set. The sounds of children playing in the neighborhood were fading, while the sadness in my heart was only growing stronger. I silently wished for a miracle, for some solution to appear, but all I could see was darkness. Wasim's arrival felt like a ray of hope, yet my pride and difficult circumstances kept me from revealing my reality to him. Our meeting that day left behind a strange sense of unrest, as though fate was trying to lead me down a new path. I didn't know what was coming next, but I was certain that my trials were far from over. Wasim's presence felt like a window had suddenly opened in a dark room. He had always been close to me. We played cricket in the narrow alleys as kids, flew kites on the rooftops, and walked to school together. But time had separated us. Wasim's father was a small shopkeeper, and despite their limited means, Wasim always had a drive to achieve something bigger. That very drive had taken him to Saudi Arabia. And now, here he was, standing before me, somewhat changed, yet still the same childhood friend. When I tried to hide the truth from him, he gently took my hand, as if trying to ease the burden I was carrying. Tears welled up in my eyes, tears I had held back for far too long. Wasim looked at me with concern. "Jamil, what's going on?" "Tell me," he asked, with sincerity and care. It felt like someone was genuinely asking about my pain after years of silence. I couldn't hold back. "Brother, I lost my job. The hospital let me go," I said, my voice trembling. My father is sick, and I have 6 siblings. Since Amma passed, the entire weight of the household has fallen on me. I don't have education, I have no skill, no direction. I don't know what to do." Tears rolled down my cheeks. Some neighborhood boys passed by. I bowed my head, hoping they wouldn't see me cry. But in that moment, Wasim placed his hand on my shoulder, silently saying, "There's nothing to be ashamed of. This is life. You'll get through it. Jamil, why didn't you tell me before? He said, his voice filled with concern. If you had, I would have called you to Saudi Arabia. There's a big demand for this kind of work there. I looked at him in surprise. But Wasim, Amma was still alive back then. You remember when you left, she didn't let me go. Her tears still haunt me. Wasim nodded slowly. Yes, I remember. But she's no longer with us now. Life forces us to make hard choices. I'll try to arrange something once I return. Maybe in a hospital or a supermarket, some cleaning or labor job. I promise I'll do my best to get you there. Just don't give up hope. His words were so sincere that I wanted to embrace him right then. For the first time in a long while, I began to believe that maybe fate was offering me another chance. That night, when I returned home, my siblings clung to me, full of questions and hope. I asked them to pray that Allah opens a path for us. Later, I sat by my father's bedside, gently massaging his feet. I poured out all my worries. He remained silent, his eyes filled with a mix of affection and helplessness. 2 days later, Wasim told me he was returning to Saudi Arabia. Before leaving, he reassured me, everything will be okay now. Just start preparing your documents, your national ID, passport, and so on. After he left, hope returned to my heart. Instead of scanning job ads every morning, I started visiting the passport office. Standing in long lines to submit documents, I saw the bitter reality that thousands of Pakistani youth face daily. So many faces reflected the same hope and anxiety I carried in my own eyes. A new wave had swept through the household. My siblings had begun to understand that their brother Jamil might be leaving the country soon. One day, my little brother cried and said, "Pai, take me with you too." I laughed and replied, "You study for now. When you grow up, you'll also get a chance to go abroad. For now, help take care of home." Even Abba had a strange fear in his heart, that his son would be far away. But he knew that necessity is what life is made of. Then one day I received a message from Wasim. "Jamil, get ready. I've found a job for you. I'm sending your visa and ticket documents." An odd blend of joy and fear stirred inside me. It was the first time I was going to leave my city, my street, my childhood friends, my home, all of it behind. But I placed my trust in Allah. I promised my siblings that everything I was doing was for them, and I kissed Abba's hands and said, "Pray for me, that I return successful for all of us." This was perhaps the moment when I finally stepped out of childhood and began facing the true realities of life. After Wasim returned to Saudi Arabia, my life entered a new phase of waiting. The house was quieter now, as if everyone silently knew Jamil would not remain under this roof much longer. Every morning, the first thing I would do was take out my file and recheck all my documents. At the passport office, long lines, document verification, running from one counter to another, and in between, people's sarcastic remarks. Where's Jamil off to now? What will he accomplish in Saudi? Would sting, but I'd recall Wasim's encouragement and regain my composure. My siblings, too, had begun to change. They now looked at me as though I were about to embark on a long journey abroad. Sometimes my little sister would come to me, insisting on placing her favorite toys in my luggage. "Pai, take this doll with you. Don't stay alone there." My heart would ache, but I'd hug her and say, "I won't be too far and we'll always talk on the phone." And everyone wanted to hold me closer now, as if they were trying to gather my memories before I left. Even Abba had changed. He'd gaze at me for a long time, then quietly look away. One night, when everyone was asleep, I sat by Abba's side. I took his aged hands into mine and asked, "Abba, if I leave, who will look after all of you?" He steadied his voice and said, "Son, parents spend their lives sacrificing for their children. Now it's our turn to pray for you. You couldn't do much here. Maybe Allah will change your destiny over there." His prayer filled my heart with a deep sense of calm. I realized I could do anything for my family. Each day passed with growing hope and anxiety. Then the day came. Wasim called. He told me he had secured a hospital cleaning job for me and had also sent money to arrange my flight and paperwork through an agent. The first time I held Saudi riyals in my hands, I was overcome with joy. I placed the money in Abba's hands and said, "Abba, this is all thanks to your prayers." Preparation began in full swing. The house had taken on a new atmosphere. My younger sister began packing my suitcase herself. My older sister washed and ironed my clothes. One day, I picked up a photo of my late mother and stared at it for a long time. "Amma, what would you have said if you were here?" My eyes welled up, but a new determination stirred inside me. Wasim stayed in regular contact. "Jamil, if there's any problem, let me know right away. I'll handle everything here." His words gave me courage. I slowly began saying my goodbyes to friends and relatives. Some gave me heartfelt advice, while others jealously remarked, "Come back a rich man and don't forget us." But my greatest treasure was the prayers of my family. Finally, the day came when my visa and ticket arrived. I couldn't sleep the entire night. My heart was filled with fear, hope, joy, and sadness all at once. Early in the morning, everyone gathered and prayed for me. My sisters wept. Abba embraced me tightly and said, "Son, you are Allah's trust. Guard yourself well." On the way to the airport, I kept glancing back at the streets of Lahore, my neighborhood, the rooftops, the pigeons, everything etched in my eyes. I looked at my street one last time, as if I were leaving it forever. At the airport, Wasim's agent welcomed me. There were several other young men like me, each setting off in pursuit of their own fate. We were all passengers of the same dream, the same fear, the same hope. As I sat in the airplane, I felt an overwhelming nervousness. It was my first time flying. From the window, I could see Lahore's old neighborhoods, trees, and rooftops shrinking below. Tears flowed from my eyes without warning. During the flight, Wasim's voice echoed in my mind. "Brother, now all we can do is pray that everything goes well." Landing at Jeddah Airport in Saudi Arabia, everything felt unfamiliar. The language, the faces, the clothing, the entire environment. As soon as I stepped outside the airport, Wasim was waiting for me. His smile radiated hope and happiness. "Jamil, you've finally arrived," we embraced. And at that moment, I realized a true friend is one who stands by you in times of need. Wasim showed me to the accommodation. A small room, one bed, an old ceiling fan, and a window with a clear view outside. "This is your home now, Jamil." I spent my first night in that room thanking Allah, and in my heart, I made a firm resolve. I'm not just here for myself, I'm here to change my family's fate. My new life in Saudi Arabia began with Wasim by my side. The hospital in Jeddah had a completely different environment, clean, organized, and strictly disciplined. Every staff member was professional and punctual. On the first morning, when I arrived at the hospital with Wasim, there was a strange sense of fear and enthusiasm in my heart. First, I was presented before the hospital administration. They took a brief interview and explained my duties. My job was to clean the back areas of the hospital and keep the staff rooms tidy. The hospital also gave me a small room which had only a bed, a small cupboard, and a window that let in daylight. It was a simple space, but my own. That night, I offered thanks to Allah in that room, and my eyes welled up with tears remembering my mother and siblings. Wasim taught me every task. I also began learning a few essential Arabic phrases so I could communicate with the locals. My duty hours were from 7 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening. The entire hospital was under my care, sometimes cleaning patients' rooms, sometimes the staff areas, and sometimes the hallways and corridors. On the very first day, the work felt so heavy that my body was exhausted. But there was peace in my heart knowing I was now connected to an honorable livelihood and could do something for my family. When the monthly salary was converted into Pakistani rupees, it brought joy to my heart. Now it was easier to send money home. Every month I would send money to my father and siblings, and they would pray for me. Soon my honesty and hard work became visible to the hospital staff. I always performed my duties on time and with full responsibility. The head of the staff, Dr. Layla, was a strict and professional woman. She was counted among the hospital's senior-most doctors. There was a certain seriousness in her demeanor, but also a unique command in her personality. Dr. Layla had a habit of not letting any new staff member clean her room. Initially, she was skeptical of me too, but after observing my work for a few weeks, she herself said, "Jamil, from tomorrow, you will clean my room. I want everything to be done according to my way and standard." I followed all her instructions. Every morning when she arrived at the hospital, I would immediately go to her office, fix the curtains, arrange the papers on her desk, clean the sofas, and polish the floor. Occasionally, Dr. Layla would assign me extra tasks, such as special cleaning in a patient's room or picking something up from the medical store. In return, she would sometimes give me additional money, which was very meaningful to me. As time passed, a certain ease developed in my relationship with Dr. Layla. Her tone began to soften, and occasionally she would speak to me personally. I realized that she was alone in her life, her conversation and laughter limited only to the hospital. One day, I gathered the courage to ask, "Dr. Sahiba, is your family here?" She took a deep breath and replied, "No, Jamil, my family is not here. I live my life according to my principles. My work in this hospital are everything to me." I briefly shared my own hardships and sorrows. She listened to my story attentively for the first time and then fell silent. Gradually, she began to trust me. Sometimes she would hand me the keys to her room. Sometimes she would have me set everything in place before an important guest arrived. I sensed that she never shared her grief with anyone. There was a strange loneliness in her personality, as if she was hiding something deep inside. Sometimes she would do something special for patients in silence, paying the bill of a poor patient herself or quietly giving money to someone in need. Seeing all this increased my respect for her even more. During this time, my own life also began to improve. I not only started providing financial support to my family, but also stayed regularly in touch with them. My father's health began to improve. My siblings continued their education. Every month when I called home, I could feel their joy and peace. Sometimes at night, while looking out from the small window in my room, I would remember the streets of Lahore, our rooftop, my mother's embrace, Adbai, and the laughter of my siblings, and silently thank Allah for His mercy upon me. My bond with Dr. Layla continued to grow. It became her habit to occasionally bring some dessert or food for the staff on her way home from the hospital, and she would specifically call me, "Jamil, come have some food." Her tone now carried compassion and affection as well. She would occasionally ask me about Pakistani culture, my family, and our traditions. One day I said to her, "Dr. Sahiba, you are very different. You understand people's pain." She smiled and said, "Jamil, maybe you're different too because you work from the heart and make sacrifices for your loved ones." During that time, I came to learn that many things were said about Dr. Layla among the hospital staff. Some called her harsh and heartless, while others spoke of her generosity and kindness. But to me, she was a woman with a broken heart and an incredibly vast soul. My journey here had only just begun, but it already felt like destiny had started to write a new chapter for me. Several months passed in that routine. I had learned to adjust to this new world. Each day passed with work, honesty, and simplicity. I had settled into the rhythm of hospital life and my modest living quarters. But life never stays the same, especially not in a foreign land. One day came that changed my life forever. I was cleaning a patient's room in the hospital when suddenly Dr. Layla called me to her office. I walked in nervously. Dr. Layla always spoke in a serious and professional tone, but today there was a strange softness in her expression and a gentle smile on her lips. She motioned for me to sit in the chair across from her. "Jamil, it's been a few months since you came here. I've observed you closely. You're an honest, hard-working, and noble man." I lowered my gaze and replied humbly, "It's all by Allah's grace, doctor. I just try to fulfill my responsibilities." There was a brief silence in the room. I could sense that Dr. Layla was holding something in her heart. Then after a light cough, she said softly, "Jamil, I want to ask you something personal." My heartbeat quickened. "Can I marry you?" Hearing those words from her lips, it felt as if the air in the room had shifted. I was stunned. A wave of questions rushed through my mind all at once. I looked up at Dr. Layla. She was looking at me calmly and sincerely. Her demeanor, her tone, the depth in her eyes, everything was real. She was older than me. She had wealth, education, and respect. And me? Just a poor young man from Pakistan. No higher education, no money, no status. A storm raged within me. "Doctor, why would you even think that about me? You're such a highly regarded doctor, you could find someone far better." She smiled gently. "Love doesn't care for more or less. I've seen your honesty, sincerity, and purity. Loneliness is a deep curse in life, and I can't bear it anymore. I know you may not see yourself as worthy of me, but I want you to be my life partner. At that moment, my heart was overwhelmed with emotions. On one side was poverty, my family, the age difference, and on the other side was a woman offering me respect and love. My father's ailing face and my siblings' innocent eyes flashed before me. If I accepted this relationship, not only could my own life be transformed, but my family's future could be secured. I remained silent. Breaking the quiet of the room, Dr. Layla said, "If you need time, take it. I don't want to pressure you." I lowered my head and replied softly, "Doctor, this is something huge for me. I know my reality, but I deeply respect the sincerity behind your words." For the first time, Dr. Layla, I may never be able to repay the love and respect you've given me, but I promise to be your loyal and respectful companion for life. With teary eyes and a smile, Dr. Layla said, "Thank you, Jamil. You've given me the greatest joy of my life." Our wedding was simple and quiet. No one at the hospital found out. There was no noise, no celebration. When Wasim found out, he was stunned. "Bro, Jamil, you've done something unbelievable. A Saudi doctor marrying you? Did you ever imagine that?" I laughed. Sometimes life takes turns that go beyond even our wildest dreams. Wasim hugged me tightly. "May Allah bless you with happiness," he said. I had now started living in Dr. Layla's house. She had every comfort one could imagine: a big car, servants, and all the luxuries of life. I left my job at the hospital and mostly took care of her personal tasks now. Sometimes I'd run errands for her, sometimes manage house documents, and at other times supervise the staff. Dr. Layla would leave for the hospital every morning and return in the evening. We would then spend time together. She treated me with great kindness, often bringing gifts or having my favorite dishes prepared. In return, I began to develop respect and affection for her. Yet, despite this luxurious and seemingly pleasant life, there was an odd unease growing in my heart. There were things I simply couldn't understand. I knew nothing about Dr. Layla's past. In her house, only elderly servants were ever present, and something about the household kept subtly changing every few days. Questions formed in my mind, but I remained silent. My new life had begun, yet in a quiet corner of my heart, a strange fear had settled. Outwardly, everything seemed perfect after our marriage. My relationship with Dr. Layla appeared smooth. She cared for me deeply, gave me respect, spent quality time with me, and even supported my family financially. But I was still unaware of many corners of her private life. For instance, she never mentioned her family. I had never seen a single relative of hers, nor had I ever noticed a phone call from any loved one. At times, a thought would sneak into my mind: why did she live alone? Did she have no parents or siblings? But I never found the courage to ask her directly. There was a strange seriousness, loneliness, and mystery in her personality. In the beginning, I thought maybe Saudi women were just more private and principled, that perhaps they didn't share personal matters easily. But over time, that feeling grew stronger, that something was definitely being hidden from me. Along with the growing questions in my heart, a sense of confusion also deepened. And that confusion became most intense whenever I observed the atmosphere of the house. Dr. Layla's bungalow always had elderly servants coming and going. I noticed that every month or so, the older staff would be replaced by new elderly faces. Most of them appeared to be over 50 or 60 years old. They handled cooking, cleaning, and gardening. Never did I see a young or even middle-aged worker in the house. One day, when Layla once again brought up the need to replace a few staff members, I gently said, "Layla, if we hire younger workers, the work might get done more efficiently. These elderly men struggle with daily chores, and there's no consistency. Every few weeks, there's someone new." At my words, Layla's face suddenly changed. I saw clear anger in her eyes. "Jamil, don't you dare interfere in the matters of this house again. This is my home. Everything here happens according to my will. You just do what you're told." There was such sharpness and fury in her tone that I froze for a few moments. My heart trembled, my hands shook. I had never heard a woman speak in that manner. My mother had always respected her husband and managed the home accordingly. At my father's word, all decisions in our house were made. But today, my wife had spoken to me with such intensity that it became unbearable. Suddenly, I felt small and powerless, as if my opinions, emotions, and existence held no worth. I felt helpless. After that day, I never raised my voice or offered suggestions again, but in my heart, the question remained, why were all the servants in the house elderly? Why did they keep getting replaced so frequently? And why were these things being hidden from me? My spirit grew more and more downcast. I quietly followed Layla's every instruction, obeying whatever she asked, but inside I carried a strange burden. Layla would go to the hospital during the day, come home in the evening, and speak to me cheerfully. But whenever I questioned one of her decisions, her tone would instantly turn sharp. It seemed like she too was hiding some pain or fear deep within herself. Sometimes at night, I would sit alone in my room and think about my home in Lahore and the condition of my parents. A wave of sadness would wash over me. I would think that although I had managed to ease my family's financial burdens by coming here, I had imprisoned my own heart in a new kind of confinement. Life in a foreign land, the strangeness of my wife, and the complexities within this house had hollowed me out from the inside. But then I would remind myself of my helplessness, of my father, my siblings, and the brighter future that now seemed possible for them. That thought alone gave me the strength to endure everything. Sometimes Layla would be the kind, affectionate, and loving wife, and other times it felt as though I was merely a formality or a necessity. I could never fully understand this duality. There were many times I wanted to tell Wasim everything, but then I'd stop myself, thinking it wasn't appropriate to drag someone else into my private life. I just kept silently enduring it all. At this point, I had nothing left but patience and silence. To me, Layla had become a mystery, sometimes tender, sometimes authoritarian, sometimes a stranger, sometimes compassionate. It was all so unfamiliar and confusing to me, but I kept convincing my heart that maybe, with time, everything would get better. Sometimes in life, you have to sacrifice your pride, dignity, and happiness just for the sake of your loved ones. That sense of duty and sacrifice had forced me to accept everything in silence. I had come to realize that in this house, in this relationship, my place was no more than that of a quiet observer. After that day when Layla had spoken so harshly, something inside me had broken completely. The love, kindness, and respect that followed after our marriage still remained in some form, but her bitter tone and harsh words had left a deep wound in my heart. I was an Eastern man. I had never seen such behavior in my own household. My mother always respected her husband. Decisions were made based on my father's word, and self-respect was paramount. But here, my existence, my opinions, and my dignity seemed to hold no value. I realized that, to Layla, everything had to be according to her will and rules. I was nothing more than someone bound to her commands. After that incident, I went completely silent. I never disagreed with her on anything again. If she changed the servants, I quietly watched. If something changed in the household, I only knew what she told me. The faces of the servants kept changing. One came, another left. All were old, tired men, far from their homelands. They came quietly, worked quietly, and left just as silently. It was all beyond the chance to help others in some way, to share in their pain and ease their burdens. I have truly learned that the highest form of kindness is the one done silently, without fame or applause, solely for the sake of Allah's pleasure. And perhaps that is where true peace and happiness lie.